Welcome back, everyone. If you're interested in catching up on the earlier chapters of this manhwa, be sure to check out the previous video on our channel. Now, let's dive into today's recap and continue our journey through the story. In the bustling subway of City C, a group of hunters were getting ready to explore a dungeon. Zhou Tong, a level 3 bard, greeted Ye Qing and welcomed him to their team of adventurers dubbed the Cannon Fodder. Curious about Ye Qing's role, Zhou Tong asked what he did. Ye Qing, a level 1 scavenger, replied modestly. Chen Xingdian, a level 1 mage who had been with Ye Qing earlier, introduced himself as well. Zhou Tong reassured everyone that it's normal to start at the bottom and there was no need to mock each other as they were all there to risk their lives for money, and there's nothing nobler than that. Ye Qing silently agreed, figuring this mismatched group would stick together. Zhou Tong then introduced 2 more team members to Ye Qing and stressed the need for a leader. Since he was the highest level among them, Zhou Tong appointed himself as leader. Lao Zhu, a level 2 hunter, and Lao Zhong, a level 3 hunter warrior, agreed with Zhou Tong's decision without hesitation. Just then, Rodrigo stepped forward to announce something important. He informed everyone that, alongside the 6 main members of the Blood Oath, there would be 5 temporary members joining them this time. One of the Blood Oath members cautioned Rodrigo not to speak too highly of the Cannon Fodders, describing them as bait to reduce their own risks. Rodrigo went on to explain the nature of the abyss they were about to enter, a maze filled with traps in every room. He tasked the Cannon Fodders with finding the path to the boss room as quickly as possible and returning with that crucial information for the main team. He jokingly mentioned that he didn't expect them to be skilled in combat, so if they encountered monsters, their best bet was to run away. Serious now, Rodrigo laid out the terms. For the Cannon Fodders to earn any share of the reward, at least one of them must survive. If only one made it out alive, they would claim all the rewards. At that moment, Lao Zhong asked Lao Zhu how he was feeling. Lao Zhu confessed that he couldn't hold back any longer. He had 4 daughters eagerly waiting for dinner at home, and he desperately needed the money. Lao Zhong shared that his wife was very ill and required expensive treatment, which compelled him to take the risk and join the mission for the money. After Rodrigo's instructions, the group entered the abyss. As they walked, Lao Zhong noticed Ye Qing, a newcomer, and mentioned it to Lao Zhu. Lao Zhu remarked that newcomer was common among cannon fodder groups, as few ever made it out alive from the abyss, requiring constant replacements. Lao Zhong however clarified that he meant something different. Ye Qing seemed unusually calm and confident for a cannon fodder. All 5 cannon fodders were now inside the dungeon. After a while, Zhou Tong remarked on the lack of monsters despite their long trek. Chen Xingdian nervously warned Zhou Tong not to jinx their luck. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and Zhou Tong regretted not wearing warmer clothes. As they continued, Zhou Tong accidentally triggered a trap, causing a large axe to swing down. Ye Qing reacted swiftly, saving Zhou Tong from harm. Zhou Tong didn't realize the danger until he felt a slight bump on the head. Turning around, he saw the axe on the ground. An annoyed Chen Xingdian blamed Zhou Tong for setting off the trap, while Ye Qing quietly wondered how Zhou Tong had survived so long with such carelessness. Zhou Tong admitted luck played a big role and urged everyone to keep moving. As they moved forward cautiously, creatures covered in webs suddenly dropped from the dungeon ceiling. Zhou Tong dodged quickly but soon panicked, retreating behind the group. They cautiously observed the creatures, which unexpectedly burst into action. Demonic spiders, elite level. 5 monsters capable of spitting venom. Zhou Tong, visibly frightened, recognized them as one of his greatest fears. At that moment, Chen Xingdian activated his burn ability, hoping to scorch the spiders, but their elite strength rendered his attack ineffective. As they battled, a spider lunged towards Ye Qing, aiming to bite his leg, but he swiftly countered with a devastating kick that severed the spider's head from its body. Chen Xingdian, seeing this, grew annoyed at what he thought was Ye Qing's arrogance, dismissing him as just an ability stealer. Unfazed, Ye Qing recycled the spider's corpse, gaining an attribute point and discovering a rare material known as arcana. This arcana was a weapon that could poison opponents, boosting damage by 120% on critical hits. Intrigued, Ye Qing realized that recycling corpses could yield not only skill and job cards but also arcana cards that enhanced equipment. Meanwhile, Realizing his lack of combat abilities, Zhou Tong, a level 3 bard, focused on buffing his fellow cannon fodders. However, his clumsy nature led to an unintended buff on the spiders, making them stronger. One of the buffed spiders charged at Zhou Tong, threatening his life. Reacting quickly, Ye Qing intervened and swiftly eliminated the spider with a single precise strike. Impressed by Ye Qing's prowess, the other hunters watched in astonishment as he effortlessly eliminated the remaining spiders attacking them. They were amazed that a cannon fodder possessed such formidable strength, capable of handling the monsters alone. Ye Qing quietly considered the demonized spiders' poison resistance, realizing why the quenching poison arcana was extracted from them. He understood that using such arcana on himself wouldn't show immediate effects due to their resilience, but their physical strength was remarkable. Meanwhile, Zhou Tong believed his buff had contributed to Ye Qing's newfound strength, his only ability as a bard. The spiders, having witnessed Ye Qing's skill, hesitated to attack him. Ye Qing knew their intelligence meant they wouldn't confront an unbeatable opponent, so they withdrew. The other hunters breathed a sigh of relief at the spiders' retreat, acknowledging Ye Qing's pivotal role in their survival even in the first room. Ye Qing continued recycling the slain spiders, accumulating numerous basic points. He used most of them and reserved one quenching poison card for later use. As their leader, Zhou Tong urged the group forward now that the monsters had withdrawn, cautioning them to avoid triggering any more traps. Ye Qing couldn't help but feel puzzled, knowing that the traps triggered earlier had been due to Zhou Tong's actions. As they moved deeper into the dungeon, Ye Qing spotted a hidden door leading to a new area, possibly created by the influence of the red moon, causing new branches to form. Curious and hopeful of finding valuable items, Ye Qing decided to explore this unknown territory. He summoned a blood nightmare clone of himself to join the group while he ventured into the new area alone. Upon entering, the area appeared brighter than the previous one, but Ye Qing's exploration was suddenly interrupted by a ferocious monster attack. This spider-like creature was far stronger than any he had encountered before, with thick defenses that nullified his attacks. It struck Ye Qing forcefully with its leg, sending him flying back. Using his observing eye, Ye Qing identified the creature as a brood mother, a level 20 monster. Instead of fear, Ye Qing felt excitement at encountering such a rare elite creature. If he could defeat it, there was potential to obtain valuable recyclable items. Reacting swiftly to the brood mother's web attack, Ye Qing dodged and countered with his Great Flame Explosion ability, aiming for its head. Infuriated, the monster retaliated by shooting iron-hard webs capable of lethal damage. Ye Qing realized his fire-based attacks were useless against the monster's immunity, so he switched to his dagger, delivering a critical strike that caused the brood mother intense pain. Ye Qing noticed a surprising weakness. While lower-level demonized spiders were venomous, higher-level brood mothers lacked this trait, potentially due to their focus on defense and breeding tactics. Using a poisonous dagger, Ye Qing exploited this vulnerability, causing the poison to spread rapidly through the creature's body. As the brood mother ensnared Ye Qing in its web, immobilizing him, Ye Qing activated his Berserk ability. Harnessing a surge of strength, he broke free and confronted the creature head-on. With a devastating blow empowered by Berserk, he caused the brood mother's body to explode in defeat. Victorious, Ye Qing gained an opportunity to enhance his Berserk ability with a new card called Splattering Gore, which increased its effectiveness but came with the risk of draining his health over time. Unconcerned due to his Regeneration ability, which healed him continuously, Ye Qing embraced the enhanced Berserk mode. Additionally, defeating the brood mother yielded new abilities and equipment. Ye Qing opted to recycle the equipment of lesser value and kept those likely to fetch higher prices outside the dungeon. Through recycling, he acquired a new card ability called Brood Mother, allowing him to summon up to 4 evolving demonized broodlings to fight alongside him based on their combat experience. Impressed by the strength of his new ability, Ye Qing looked forward to employing it strategically in future battles. As the hunters continued exploring the dungeon, they stumbled upon a deep mine within the abyss. Inside, they found highly concentrated S-rank magic crystals, a rare discovery that could fetch a fortune. They speculated whether the crystals were influenced by the Red Moon's effects. Lao Tzu used his tool, the Eye of Argos, which marked a 60-meter radius on their map, alerting nearby adventurers to the presence of the valuable crystals. Chen Xingdian, seeing this, grew angry and called Lao Zu stupid. He argued that with these crystals, they could live in luxury for the rest of their lives, questioning why Lao Zu had exposed their find to others outside the dungeon. Lao Zu calmly explained that if the hunters outside discovered they were hoarding the treasure, they would face severe consequences. Lao Zhong chimed in, reminding Chen that as cannon fodder, their role was to clear paths for higher-ranking adventurers. Dying in the dungeon would likely be dismissed as accidental, without anyone batting an eye. Chen, though irritated by their words, knew they were right. He blamed Ye Qing for weakening him by stealing his abilities. Despite losing levels, Chen was determined to earn cash and improve his gear to join the main scavenging teams. In a moment of distraction and greed, Chen contemplated sneaking some crystals out of the dungeon. Suddenly, disaster struck, a trap activated, and a laser-like beam shot through Lao Zu's head, instantly killing him. The remaining hunters stood shocked and bewildered by the unexpected attack. The incident left them shaken and cautious as they realized the dangers lurking within the dungeon. They mourned Lao Zu's death and contemplated their next moves, knowing they must tread carefully to survive and navigate the treacherous depths of the abyss. Meanwhile, Ye Qing focused on nurturing his newly summoned demonized broodling. Starting as a small level 1 creature, Ye Qing aimed to evolve it into a formidable level 5 demonized spider using basic points. He knew the broodling had potential to grow and assist him in battling monsters. After feeding it basic points, the broodling swiftly evolved into a silk spider and learned a new skill called spider web. On the other side of the abyss, Lao Zhong stood in shock at Lao Zu's lifeless body on the ground. Chen Xingdian hastily claimed it was an accident, but Lao Zhong was far from satisfied. He lashed out at Chen, blaming his greed for Lao Zu's death. Grabbing Chen by the neck, Lao Zhong angrily reminded him that Lao Zu was the sole provider for his family, working tirelessly. Due to Chen's actions, Lao Zu's family now faced uncertain futures. Chen Xingdian retorted, shouting that he needed money to survive outside the abyss. He mourned his fall from grace, from a higher level to working with lower-ranked cannon fodder. Lao Zhong couldn't comprehend Chen's lack of remorse. He drew his weapon, accusing Chen of being a team killer. In response, Chen defended himself, arguing that in this harsh world, power and wealth were the only measures of value. He rebelliously stated that they were all in the same struggle for survival, where sacrifices were sometimes inevitable. Amidst their argument, the hunters were startled by applause behind them. Turning around, they saw Rodrigo approaching with a sinister smile. He complimented Chen Xingdian's worldview and offered him a spot in his Blood Oath clan, mentioning they had room for one more. A member of Rodrigo's group noted that Lao Zu's body was still warm, indicating he had just died. Rodrigo brushed off Lao Zu's death as common in the deadly dungeon, where only the strong survived. He emphasized that risking one's life for money was nothing to be ashamed of, especially with the rare S-rank magic crystals appearing during the Red Moon. As Rodrigo spoke, he approached Chen Xingdian, placing a hand on his shoulder and insinuating that claiming one of the crystals required sacrificing a worthless life. Chen Xingdian trembled in fear at Rodrigo's evil words. Rodrigo's clan members drew their weapons, instructing the remaining hunters, now reduced to 4, to gather the magic crystals from the walls. They threatened to kill anyone who tried to escape. Lao Zhong warned them that triggering traps could kill them, but his pleas were ignored. Reluctantly, Lao Zhong began picking up the crystals, but just as he reached for one, he dropped to his knees, begging for mercy. He confessed he had only taken this dangerous job to pay off debts from gambling. Rodrigo mocked Lao Zhong, calling him useless. Meanwhile, Chen Xingdian contemplated escaping, but he knew Rodrigo's strength far surpassed his own. Even at full power, he wouldn't stand a chance against Rodrigo. Instead, Chen Xingdian approached Rodrigo and asked if the offer to join Blood Oath was still open. Rodrigo, momentarily forgetful, had one of his members confirm his earlier offer. Once confirmed, Chen Xingdian eagerly moved closer, only to receive a brutal kick to the head from Rodrigo. Rodrigo mocked Chen Xingdian for believing his lies, declaring him unworthy of joining his elite group. He taunted Chen Xingdian as a team killer, destined for death, and claimed his life now served only to collect crystals. Rodrigo threatened to kill all the hunters and turn them into controlled corpses to gather the crystals. Just as tensions peaked, Ye Qing's clone disappeared, and the real Ye Qing appeared. He listened to Rodrigo's threats and grew displeased. Approaching the crystals, Ye Qing confidently removed one without triggering any trap. Everyone was stunned and puzzled by this unexpected outcome. Rodrigo speculated that Ye Qing must have an extraordinarily high luck stat, possibly around 60, which prevented the traps from activating. He marveled at how a low-level player like Ye Qing could have such luck. Rodrigo's suspicion intensified when another clan member tried to take a crystal and was instantly killed by a trap. Convinced that Ye Qing possessed a rare trait related to his job, Rodrigo changed his plans. He no longer needed the other hunters. Now, only Ye Qing's luck could ensure success. Rodrigo declared his new intention to eliminate the remaining hunters. They stood helpless, caught in Rodrigo's ruthless scheme, while Ye Qing pondered his next move. Rodrigo commanded his Blood Oath members to ensure no cannon fodder escaped. Lao Zhang felt hopeless against these seasoned hunters, realizing their chances were slim. They were thinking of fleeing. Suddenly, Chen Shangdian ran away, abandoning them. Ye Qing was surprised by Chen's retreat. Now, their numerical advantage vanished, leaving them short-handed. Ye Qing, however, remained composed. He summoned 4 creatures he had recently recycled, a quartet of low-level monsters that responded to his call. Zhou Tong, initially alarmed by the sight of these creatures, relaxed as Ye Qing assured him they were allies. With a cool demeanor, Ye Qing activated his observing eye, analyzing their foes. A level 20 necromancer, a fierce level 17 berserker, 2 seasoned level 18 hunters, and a resilient level 19 paladin stood against them. Ye Qing wasn't sure how his monsters stacked up against these seasoned fighters, but he felt a glimmer of confidence in his abilities. When Ye Qing attempted to assess Rodrigo's strength, he found himself puzzled. Rodrigo's power seemed to match his own, a revelation that surprised Ye Qing and made him wary of their leader. Rodrigo admired Ye Qing's ability to control abyssal monsters, noting his unexpected skills. However, the monsters Ye Qing summoned were only level 10, much weaker than the Blood Oath members. Rodrigo instructed his team to eliminate Ye Qing's monsters without damaging the crystals. Ye Qing realized protecting the cannon fodders and fighting the Blood Oath would be tough. He urged the others to flee in Chen Shangdian's direction if they wanted to live. Lao Zhang thought Ye Qing was foolish for stalling, but he saw a chance to survive and ran. Zhou Tong, grateful to Ye Qing, promised to remember his sacrifice before running off. As they fled, misfortune struck Zhou Tong. The ceiling collapsed, blocking their path. Lao Zhang was furious, but Zhou Tong couldn't help his bad luck. They were now trapped, forced to confront the approaching Blood Oath members. On the other side, the members of the Blood Oath were locked in a fierce battle against Ye Qing's minions. One of the Blood Oath members was about to strike down a minion when it shot sticky webbing from its mouth, catching the hunter off guard. Seizing the opportunity, Ye Qing attacked the distracted hunter with his dagger, but the skilled warrior managed to block the blow just in time. "I'm a level 19 paladin," the hunter declared confidently, "much stronger than your level 1 self. You can't defeat me." With a swift move, the paladin attempted a shield bash, but Ye Qing agilely dodged the attack. Knowing his level 10 spiders could only disrupt their ranks but not defeat them outright, Ye Qing strategized quickly. Ye Qing dashed behind the paladin with incredible speed and slashed at his legs with his dagger. He was moments away from finishing the paladin off when 2 other hunters intervened, firing arrows at Ye Qing. To everyone's surprise, Ye Qing managed to dodge and block each arrow skillfully. The hunters were amazed at his speed and reflexes. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by the arrows, Ye Qing unleashed his Great Flame Explosion ability, causing the ground to erupt beneath the hunters. They narrowly evaded the fiery blast, realizing that dealing with Ye Qing was going to be much more challenging than they had anticipated. Just as Ye Qing's monsters seemed overwhelming, a berserker stormed in and began attacking them fiercely. With swift and powerful strikes, he swiftly dealt with the monsters and then turned towards Zhou Tong and Lao Zhang, intending to finish them off. Zhou Tong thought it was the end, but just as the berserker was about to strike him down, Lao Zhang stepped in, using his shield to block the attack. He blamed Zhou Tong for their predicament, urging him to stand and fight. Before Zhou Tong could respond, the berserker launched another attack. Lao Zhang tried to defend with his shield, but the blow was too strong, knocking him backwards. The berserker advanced towards Lao Zhang to deliver the final blow. In a moment of resignation, Lao Zhang shouted defiantly that he was prepared to die, finally free from his burdens and debts. The berserker raised his sword to strike, but suddenly found himself unable to move. Confused, he looked back and saw that Zhou Tong had immobilized them both with his ability. Zhou Tong, struggling to control his powers, mistakenly froze not only the berserker but also Lao Zhang. Meanwhile, Ye Qing observed the scene with confusion, unsure of what was happening. As Ye Qing watched the battle, a necromancer approached and warned him about the limits of his powers despite their strength. Ye Qing realized summoning his minions had drained a lot of his mana. He quickly drank a mana potion from his bag to replenish his energy, which puzzled the necromancer. The necromancer scoffed at Ye Qing's potion, remarking that even with restored mana, it would be too late to save him. Disregarding the necromancer's saying, Ye Qing used his ability to absorb and recycle the corpses summoned by the necromancer. Confused, the necromancer watched his undead minions disappear. With his mana fully restored, Ye Qing swiftly attacked the necromancer, landing a solid blow to his face. Watching from the sidelines, Rodrigo, impressed by Ye Qing's tactics, took an interest in him. However, Ye Qing disagreed with Rodrigo's ruthless approach of sacrificing lives for gain. Offended by Ye Qing's stance, Rodrigo dismissed him as mere cannon fodder, asserting that only ruthless individuals could thrive in the harsh world. He declared that those opposing him would perish in the dungeon, and that one side would emerge victorious while the other would be destroyed. Ye Qing chuckled when Rodrigo threatened him and said he didn't understand his words. Ye Qing believed everyone should enter and leave the abyss safely. Rodrigo mocked Ye Qing's optimism and immediately attacked with a powerful punch, knocking Ye Qing back. Ye Qing realized Rodrigo was the strongest opponent he had faced. Unbothered, Rodrigo attacked again, but Ye Qing dodged his blow. Rodrigo shouted that nothing could stand against his strength. Their battle intensified, each trying to prove themselves in the dangerous abyss. While on the other side, just as Zhou Tong's spell began to fade, the berserker broke free and lunged at him, intent on finishing him off before he could cast it again. Just as the berserker swung his sword towards Zhou Tong, Lao Zhang intervened, grappling the berserker from behind. He urged Zhou Tong to act quickly while he had the berserker restrained. Before Zhou Tong could react, however, the berserker overpowered Lao Zhang, tossing him aside and slashing his sword across Lao Zhang's stomach. Lao Zhang cried out in pain, calling desperately for Zhou Tong's help and reminding him of his role as their leader. Zhou Tong's mind raced back to when he had insisted on leading their ragtag group, believing his level 3 bard skills made him the best choice. He had hoped leadership would spare him from direct combat and hide his incompetence. Now, on his knees before the berserker, he begged for mercy, admitting his weakness and pleading for his life. Memories flooded Zhou Tong's mind of his previous failures in another team. He had been ridiculed for his inability to inflict damage and criticized for his buff spells often going awry. Eventually, his teammates had expelled him, leaving him feeling worthless and alone. Reflecting on these memories, Zhou Tong recalled sitting alone on the dungeon steps when Rodrigo approached him. Rodrigo had asked about his abilities, and Zhou Tong had reluctantly admitted to being just a level 3 bard. To Zhou Tong's surprise, Rodrigo had extended an invitation to join their dungeon raid, offering him a chance for redemption and adventure. In the midst of their battle, Ye Qing found himself outmatched by Rodrigo. A powerful blow slammed Ye Qing against the wall, leaving him reeling from the impact. Rodrigo then unleashed a technique learned from the martial artist Kang Longjun, designed to inflict continuous damage to vital organs. If Ye Qing used magic now, the injury would worsen, possibly leading to his sudden death. It was a devastating combat move, capable of crippling even the most skilled magic users. Fortunately, Ye Qing managed to dodge the lethal strike just in time. Now on the defensive, he had to quickly devise a strategy to counter Rodrigo's relentless attacks. He knew he couldn't afford to make any mistakes against such a formidable opponent. As Ye Qing evaded Rodrigo's relentless pursuit, he searched for an opening to turn the tide of battle. With every dodge and parry, he calculated his next move carefully, trying to outwit Rodrigo's aggressive fighting style. In the midst of their intense battle, Ye Qing suddenly noticed something and urgently called out to Zhou Tong. But before he could finish his call, Rodrigo closed in on Ye Qing with a devastating attack that sent him flying back, crashing near Zhou Tong. Lying on the ground, Ye Qing spoke to Zhou Tong, emphasizing that dwelling on past weaknesses and hoping for pity from others was futile. Ye Qing understood Zhou Tong's struggles deeply. He too had yearned for power more than anyone, grappling with his own shortcomings while battling monsters. Despite feeling useless at times, Ye Qing never considered running from challenges. He told Zhou Tong that fear of physical weakness was insignificant compared to the danger of a weak spirit. Ye Qing shared how he faced countless life-threatening situations and often found himself overpowered, but he never gave up. Despite his physical limitations, his resolve remained unwavering. He likened himself to a king in the making, despite his humble beginnings as a trash picker. Zhou Tong listened intently to Ye Qing's words. He pondered his own situation, realizing that without strength, he would not survive. He vowed not to hide behind teammates anymore but to grow stronger for himself. He resolved to no longer shy away from challenges but to forge his own path to strength. Upon hearing Zhou Tong's declaration, the berserker scoffed and mocked him, claiming that a mere level 3 support could never penetrate his level 17 armor, no matter how hard he tried. But in that moment, a fire ignited within Zhou Tong. Determination surged through him like never before. He discarded his sword and grasped a microphone, shouting into it to activate his special ability. The air around them crackled with newfound power as Zhou Tong's ability surged, greatly boosting Ye Qing's strength beyond what anyone expected. Witnesses were stunned by Zhou Tong's unexpected display of power, except for Ye Qing, who had anticipated the outcome. With a smile, Ye Qing proclaimed Zhou Tong to be the greatest support he had ever encountered. Empowered by Zhou Tong's ability, Ye Qing accessed his own unique skill, inspiration, which amplified all his skills and attributes to unprecedented levels. With a swift command, Ye Qing summoned a blood nightmare, a dark creature that morphed into a perfect replica of himself. The clone immediately lunged at the berserker, entwining itself around his body. The berserker's confident demeanor turned to fear-stricken screams as the blood nightmare tightened its grip, squeezing the life out of him. The berserker writhed in agony as the relentless grip of the blood nightmare tightened around him, each second bringing him closer to his demise. The dungeon echoed with his cries, marking the swift turn of fortunes brought by Zhou Tong and Ye Qing's coordinated assault. At that moment, Rodrigo launched a powerful attack towards Ye Qing, but with Zhou Tong's buff enhancing his magical regeneration, Ye Qing managed to evade the blow. The increased magic in his body allowed him to heal faster from Rodrigo's earlier damage, making the fight against Rodrigo less hard than before. Sensing an opportunity, Ye Qing activated his berserk mode and unleashed his ability, splattering gore, aiming directly at Rodrigo. The devastating attack shattered Rodrigo's armor, much to his shock. He couldn't believe a level 1 like Ye Qing could breach his defenses. Ye Qing knew the attack's special effect ignored armor, but it came at a cost. Each use accelerated his blood loss. He resolved to end the fight swiftly before his condition worsened. Rodrigo remained unfazed, intrigued that a mere level 1 trash picker could challenge him. Determined not to be overshadowed in skill, Rodrigo launched a powerful punch that landed squarely on Ye Qing's frame. He taunted Ye Qing, emphasizing the stark difference in their strength and boasting about his preference for pure destructive power over more weaker styles. With a surge of determination, Rodrigo unleashed his signature move, the instant kill heavy breaking punch, propelling Ye Qing through the air. Yet, undeterred by the forceful impact, Ye Qing swiftly regained his footing. Rodrigo laughed at Ye Qing's resilience, asserting his dominance and prowess. Ye Qing, unfazed by Rodrigo's taunts, focused all his remaining energy into bolstering his strength. Instantly, his muscles visibly swelled as his strength surged to new heights. Rodrigo charged at Ye Qing, undeterred by Ye Qing's increased strength, confident that he could still overpower him. He unleashed a powerful attack, but at the same moment, Ye Qing retaliated with equal force. Their attacks collided, yet Ye Qing's proved superior, sending Rodrigo hurtling backwards with his hands visibly damaged. Shock registered on Rodrigo's face as he realized someone could match his power. Unbothered by Rodrigo's astonishment, Ye Qing pressed forward, relentless in his assault. He informed Rodrigo that there was no time to be surprised, as the battle was about to end. Ye Qing seized Rodrigo by the head, ready to deliver the finishing blow. Rodrigo flashed back to 8 years ago when he was just a low-ranking member among hunters. They often made him clean equipment dirtied from battling monsters. One senior hunter laughed at Rodrigo's aspirations, reminded him of the rule among the lion-hearted hunters: the weak were only fit for menial tasks like shining shoes. To earn his place as an official member, Rodrigo had to prove himself worthy. Another hunter chuckled, joking that Rodrigo seemed destined to remain cannon fodder forever. Determined to prove them wrong, Rodrigo worked tirelessly to climb out of the novice ranks. But during one monster battle, despite his determination, Rodrigo faced a creature too powerful for him. He bravely confronted it, but was quickly overwhelmed and left severely injured. In the aftermath, Rodrigo found himself in a lab, surrounded by doctors assessing his extensive injuries: a shattered mandible, 8 broken ribs, pierced heart and liver, and damaged kidneys. The medical equipment on him hinted at advanced abyssal technology, capable of using magic crystals to extract and transplant cells from abyssal creatures into human bodies. One doctor, noting Rodrigo's DNA similarity to monsters, delivered both good and bad news: he could survive, thanks to the abyssal technology, but at the cost of no longer being fully human. Rodrigo had become a hybrid, part human and part monster. The doctor's laughter sounded bitter as he revealed this startling truth to Rodrigo. Following his recovery, Rodrigo was escorted to the chamber of the Lionheart clan's leader. Standing before the formidable leader, Rodrigo was informed that he had proven himself worthy of becoming an official member. The leader handed Rodrigo a badge, symbolizing his new status within the clan, but also made it clear that Rodrigo was now an auxiliary and servant to the leader. Grateful yet puzzled, Rodrigo asked about his teammates. To his dismay, the leader revealed that he had disposed of Rodrigo's entire team, deeming them useless. Shocked and betrayed by this revelation, Rodrigo struggled to comprehend the harsh reality. With a cold demeanor, the leader explained that in this world, the weak were destined to be swallowed up unless they could prove their worth. They would be treated as disposable, mere trash to be discarded. In that crucial moment, Rodrigo's memories flooded back, snapping him back to consciousness. With a surge of determination, he unleashed his full power. His defense, speed, and destructive capabilities surged far beyond their previous limits. Grasping Ye Qing's hand, Rodrigo delivered a devastating blow that sent Ye Qing reeling backward. Rodrigo's body, enhanced by transplanted monster organs and fueled by absorbed magic crystals, tapped into unprecedented power. The pure magic crystals were especially potent under the Blood Moon's influence, synergizing perfectly with Rodrigo's transformation. Consuming the crystals, Rodrigo's strength skyrocketed, surpassing even the dungeon's boss level. The system recognized his transformation, now marking him as a boss monster rather than a mere human. With a loud roar, Rodrigo faced Ye Qing, mocking him for the path to power, giving up humanity to become a ruthless monster. He launched into an attack, hurling huge boulders at Ye Qing. Though Ye Qing tried to dodge quickly, Rodrigo's monstrous shape made it harder to avoid getting hit. Zhou Tong acknowledged Ye Qing's strength but doubted if he could match Rodrigo's sheer power. Rodrigo's punches were potentially lethal to Ye Qing. Rodrigo proclaimed that in the world of strength, the weak bow down to the strong, a harsh truth that drove him to embrace his monstrous form for power. Intent on avenging the failed mission for the magic crystals, Rodrigo targeted Zhou Tong, gripping his neck tightly. Just as Rodrigo prepared to strike, he felt a presence behind him. Turning around, he faced Ye Qing, who had powered up again by drinking another potion to restore his strength. Unable to see through Rodrigo's defenses with his observing eye skill, Ye Qing relied on his Blood Nightmare's abilities to uncover hidden insights from Rodrigo's body. Ye Qing explained that while the berserker's skills had temporarily boosted his own strength, the toll was severe, a 30-second exhaustion period. In contrast, Rodrigo's transformation blurred the line between human and monster, extending his reach even into the dungeon itself, with the abyss demanding its due from him. Rodrigo chuckled at Ye Qing's remark, insisting that his newfound power was his own achievement, unrelated to the abyss. However, at that very moment, the repercussions of tapping into dungeon energies began to manifest on Rodrigo's body. His right hand morphed grotesquely, losing its human appearance and transforming into a more monstrous form. Rodrigo, realizing what was happening, grew furious that Ye Qing's warning seemed to be coming true. In his rage, Rodrigo lunged at Ye Qing. Yet, as his body became larger and more monstrous, his agility suffered greatly. Ye Qing easily evaded Rodrigo's clumsy attacks. During the battle, Ye Qing wished he had a weapon. Suddenly, Zhou Tong shouted and threw his dagger to Ye Qing. Ye Qing caught it skillfully, now armed and prepared to seriously hurt Rodrigo. Ye Qing swiftly maneuvered behind Rodrigo, slashing his back with the dagger and dealing significant damage. Each strike was a critical hit, surprising Rodrigo. Ye Qing taunted Rodrigo, mocking his inability to keep up with someone he considered trash, despite Rodrigo's enhanced agility. Rodrigo, enraged by Ye Qing's words, warned that humiliating him would only lead to a worse fate for Ye Qing. He asserted his superiority over Ye Qing, claiming a higher existence. However, Ye Qing disagreed, seeing Rodrigo merely as a human-turned monster who had borrowed power to become stronger. Over time, Rodrigo's transformation progressed, losing more of his human form and becoming increasingly monstrous. Ye Qing observed this irreversible change, realizing Rodrigo was now fully consumed by his monstrous nature. At that moment, Ye Qing taunted Rodrigo by mentioning the abyss calling him, which only fueled Rodrigo's growing rage and monstrous transformation. He screamed in fury, haunted by memories of being treated poorly and desperate to prove his worth. Meanwhile, a message appeared before Ye Qing, presenting a challenge: defeat Rodrigo without killing him to earn a rare reward. Ye Qing hesitated, knowing it would be hard to subdue Rodrigo without causing harm, especially with Rodrigo's teammates likely to intervene. But, attracted and curious by the promise of the rare reward, Ye Qing decided to accept the challenge and face the difficult task ahead. That's all for today. If you do enjoy the video, please subscribe, like and share, and also share your thoughts in the comment section.